Oh no. She's yet to join.
Okay, great. So we'll wait for her. Anyways, we have about 6 participants, so let more people join in.
Yes, of course.
Great. So, Dhwani, I think we have this WhatsApp group in which we can send a reminder to people to join. Um,
So I am not in that WhatsApp group. So
okay, okay. Let me just ask Shivesh to do that.
okay,
I'm here only. I'm just typing
Ab-
it on my WhatsApp group.
absolutely, sir. Oh, our guest has joined.
Oh, lovely. Okay. Hi, Prerna.
Hello. Hi, Masroor sir. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much. How are you doing?
Very well. Very well. I'm just
Good.
getting organized. Just give me 30 seconds,
Please do that. No worries.
please.
Wow.
Organized now.
Great. The background is awesome.
Thank you.
Great.
Welcome.
Okay. So, Dhwani, shall we start our
Yes, sir.
session?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
great. Great.
I
Great.
very
Thank you.
yeah, a very warm welcome to you, ma'am, Prerna.
Thank you very much. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, thanks, Dhwani, for setting this up for us, for Prerna, and for my humble self. Good evening, everyone. My name is Masroor Lodi. I'm the founder of the Entrepreneurship School. And today we are going to have another very interesting entrepreneur who is going to talk to us about the idea that she conceived and is now a very successful entrepreneur. But before I do that, let me introduce briefly our speaker today, Squadron Leader Prerna Chaturvedi. She is from the first batch of women pilots, Air Force pilots, yeah, and she flew during Kargil, and she has a lot more to talk about. And I don't want to steal the thought. I would like her to speak about herself, and I would also like to give the opportunity to all the young minds, the kids who are sitting in this session, to talk to her directly. This is a great opportunity for us all. So, Prerna, the format that we have in HIGMID, HIGMID stands for How I Got My Idea. The format is very interactive. I will initiate with some of the very basic questions. You will answer them. And then the students who are sitting here would have their curious questions for you, which you can respond to and help them think through many things that they are going to see in their own future. So, Prerna, first of all, tell us who you are.
That's the most difficult question to answer, not even for the others, but also for my own self. But just to put it in a nutshell and briefly explain whatever we are doing now, I'm Squadron Leader Prerna, retired from the Air Force, a helicopter pilot, and just by virtue of having born many many years before, we we somehow became the flag bearers of the women's entry into the defense forces and to start flying in the Air Force. This is $1 million opportunity that we were bestowed with, and forever thankful to what we thought we could do. Forever thankful. It was also an idea, and the times when we were thinking of doing it, it was not so possible. It was even thought eccentric. It was also thought crazy idea to be able to join forces by women. But the fact that we believed in what we dreamt and we continued to walk towards it, we continued working towards it. The fact that we did not let the fear of failure set in, because we did not have no option B. It was only one plan A, and there was no plan B if plan A did not work. So we did not leave any other option for ourselves but not to be able to do it. And this was that strong belief in ourselves with which I would say we were able to prove the point and grab the opportunity. So as people say, grab the bull by the horn. That's what we did. We were able to become the flag bearers of change in the way women saw, in the way the world saw women in uniform. And we started to fly, and that was the beginning of life for all of us. And the way we soared through all through years, it was not just the beginning of life or a career for us. Now I realize it was the beginning of career for many other women and girls who aspired to wear the uniform, not only in the Air Force, but also in the Army and the Navy. And the big time lesson that we learned from that, being who we were and being who we are, defined the way we looked at life. That defined the way we believed in what we can do. And it was that belief statement which started to come from there. So, Masroor sir, that briefly explains
Wow,
to everyone.
absolutely. And I think spot on. Thank you, Prerna, with that introduction. And friends, a couple of things that struck me as Prerna was talking about her own journey and about herself. The first one, she talked about fear, not fearing the fear, right? And that is something which is so crucial for becoming an entrepreneur. And we'll talk about the entrepreneurship journey also of Prerna, which is very interesting. But she also talked about, if you note, she also, my question was to her about herself, but she was talking we, us, ours, which means she was talking about a team, which is again an extremely important element for being a successful entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs are not entrepreneurs just because of themselves. They're entrepreneurs because they are able to collaborate with a set of people, the team. And nowhere she mentioned I. And she mentioned about the team. That is a remarkable thing that I was able to note, Prerna, in response to our first question. So
Wow.
great learning in the
Great
first
learning for
place.
myself too on this.
Wonderful. So, friends, I will proceed with my next question to Prerna ma'am. But remember, you have the opportunity to ask your question. You either raise your hand or you put your question into the chat box. And then we will unmute you to ask that question directly to Prerna ma'am. So, Prerna ma'am, tell us something about your entrepreneurship venture. What is this all about? And why are you here in this venture? Please help us with that.
And like you rightly said, sir, by virtue of being in the defense forces and in the flying, you rightly pointed, we believed in the power of team, as to how much we can achieve collectively. And once you've learned or honed the art of trying to solve a problem, so when you see that this is not happening in the world around you, and this is one thing that you would like to change, you start looking at solutions all around you, and you do not look at ready-made solutions. You start creating solutions. You start carving a way for yourself. And this sort of, by virtue of the first stint, and by virtue of having proven it, we realize that it is possible to do in many other spheres, not just this one. So when we looked at how world looked at mobility, we were kids when we started to move out from home, and we remember the kind of money we had to spend out of our own pocket money in order to just do 1 kilometer, 2 kilometer. Doing public transport was not so much advisable. Parents were not sure if it was safe, but if they had to spend too much on our pocket money, or if I wanted to go somewhere independently, you would end up spending too much. And as you looked around, when we moved shortly to Delhi, we realized that there was so much pollution caused by the emissions on the roads. So we were looking at Swachhata Abhiyan from everywhere else, but we were not able to clean the air that we would breathe every second in and out. And we started looking at solutions from across our world. What is it that we can do? So normally when we look at addressing pollutions and raising temperatures, and we do that in the classrooms all the time. We do that, we study out of academics. But what is it that we can do to bring that change in our everyday life within our possible means? And now this is what the catch is: to bring it within our possible economic means. This is where we started working towards. And because we were in the aerospace and defense sector, we were connected with the people, with such players across the world. So we started putting together the team which had the respective strength to be able to offer us prospective solutions. What are the pieces that I can build in from here and there, and structure my entire solution in one bandwidth? And this is where, when we looked at solutions, we said, all right, who could be our users? They turned out to be the team. Who could be solution providers? They turned out to be another team. We just had to become the collaborator of change, and we just had to hold that flag really tight fisted, standing strong that yes, we will continue walking towards it. So, and we realized the magic was lying in the heart of technology. We had
Yes.
experienced a lot of technology. We had experienced change. We had experienced the power of team. So when our international players, the players across Europe and Germany, when they were ready to offer technology to us, and we knew that we could bring that technology at a very, very affordable cost into a country like India, and with our existing team, we would be able to bring that into action. We started working towards, and we got that idea that yes, when we look at mobility alone, when we are able to offer a solution which is not dependent on petrol usage vehicles, which would be much more economical. And this is where we would also not only reduce pollution, but also reduce a lot of expenses incurred by people who are using those vehicles. So it sounds so very simple when we try and see the paths we've progressed in last 2 to 3 years now. But this is exactly how it started. Very, very simple. You started to look at solution. You started to look at solutions which were within your reach. So we started looking at points which were your points of strength. So we started writing in a little diary. Who would be the key enablers of change who would start working with me? We start writing with the names of people and what I would think they would do for us. How strong is my association with them? And are they also working towards the same solution? And the moment you started writing the names, it was like going back to pre nursery. You were just making a big big jigsaw puzzle. You were putting people not only in the horizontal scale, but also in a vertical scale and trying to match up the numbers. It takes a while for us, for everyone to be able to do it. It took that same time for us also to be able to structure it. But once half the
Yeah.
piece of the puzzle is done, you start
Yeah.
looking at one quadrangle by one quadrangle and start fitting the blocks together. And as it
True.
started to come together, we could see action on ground. And that's how we got the idea and the way forward.
Awesome. Awesome. Prerna, what a lovely, simply put, a story of a very complex journey that you have had. So everyone here, you're a very young audience here. I can tell you something. When you are listening to someone like Prerna, you don't just learn from what she has said, you also learn from what she has still not said. So she simplified a very complex journey in such simple terms, right? So, for example, instead of saying that we got into a great innovation, the breakthrough innovation, and loading those words and statements, she simply said we created solutions. Now, that's the power of a leader, of a visionary entrepreneur who could see what they are supposed to do, and what they are intending to do, and which is what, Prerna, thank you for telling your story so nicely. And of course, you are hitting uh, not just an opportunity, but also a concern that we as human race face today in the form of climate change. And I know Prerna ma'am has been on this for years now. It's not just that she got into EV business this year. She has been there even before lockdown, and I consistently see the progress she and her team are making on the EV side. So, friends, I've asked my questions. Is there any question that any of you would like to ask Prerna ma'am? You are free to raise your hand, and I will allow you to speak to Prerna ma'am directly. Any questions from you?
Whilst others are still thinking about this set of questions, uh,
Yes.
I would also like to add that when you start looking at solutions and when you start piecing together your puzzle, it is also important to keep your belief very strong. It is also important to keep your aim constant, not let that aim be wavered. It doesn't mean that we need to be blind towards an or towards all advice or consultation. Yes, we have to listen to them. We have to listen to them with open ears. We have to be, but we have to be consistently moving towards the goal that we have set aside. You may change the course, you may change direction, you may take an alternative path, but your goal must remain the same. So what people would advise you, or they would, and they would all be very good advices, but you must always remember that those advices or I would say suggestions or the correct course of action is based on their experiences and their own beliefs. Whilst you have to filter out how much do you want to incorporate in your own belief and in your own plan of action. So if the moment you get that right wisdom, and this is what differentiates all of us from being intelligent or wise. You have to be very, very wise in allowing what kind of interference would you allow, how much would you accept from those advices and suggestions, and when will you incorporate them is most important. Never jump to
True.
conclusions. Never close your ears to an advice. Never follow them 100% until you have validated from the core of your heart, and until you have validated from your own aim, objective, purpose, and the strength of your own arms and your own team. Because it is that strength which is going to drive your train.
Absolutely. So, Prerna, as we are on this advice from you to our young wannabe entrepreneurs, they are very young. They want to start entrepreneurship journey somewhere down the line in their life, right? You have done it already, and you continue to do it in your career. What do you think are the important guidelines for them that they should adhere to when building a product, when building their venture in the initial period, very beginning of the venture, not when they are already in it?
From the beginning, if they've listed down what would be their core strength areas, it's important to know what your strengths are and what your own weaknesses are. So, and in this, we can spend as much time as we would like and as true to ourselves as we can be. Start listing down your strengths. Not only your strengths, but the strengths of your team also are a very, very important factor. Your strengths, your weaknesses, and your financial limitations. No one has unlimited money available to them to execute anything, and nothing moves without the support of money. So, whilst we are consciously aware, you just restructure down your financial limitations, make a box that under no circumstances you're going to cross that box. Under no circumstances will you feed one pocket from the other.
Right.
Once you have listed down, and then you start to structure what problems are you solving across
Right.
yourself. And that is where the structure is going to be a foundation. Never forget the, and of course, the strengths will keep adding on, the weaknesses will keep reducing, or maybe digressing or getting diluted. But spirit that
True.
foundation, what you've set aside for yourself, that will define your path forward.
Wow, wonderful advice. Thank you. Friends, we are left with 5 minutes. I see one raise of the hand. Siddharth, can you please go ahead with your question to ma'am?
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. So, hello, ma'am. And first of all, you are really, really an inspirational kind of a figure for me, all of us, and for me as well. I didn't know about your startup, but I have been an entrepreneur, and I have also had a fair share of challenges on my end as well. And ma'am, I think one of the most common kind of struggles of me is entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship is not just happy and all the green lights. We also have a lot of red lights and all the bumps means along the way, right? So I think this would be a very insightful kind of an advice from your end, which I would like to know from you. So it has two parts. Firstly, what was the biggest challenge of when starting the journey of these electric vehicles, especially when you talk about a country like India, where we still don't have a network of decharging stations, right? So means what was the biggest challenge according to you? And the second part is that, ma'am, when especially when the newbie entrepreneurs or the entrepreneurs who are starting for the first time, when they come across such big challenges which seems very daunting at the start, a lot of them, they sort of start inculcating a sense of self doubt in them, right? So what would be your piece of advice to those entrepreneurs who face such challenges? Because challenges are something which we can't do away with. We have to go through those challenges, right? So what would be your piece of advice to them? So the two parts.
So not only for a startup, but also for an established corporate, that and also for students, the table is never perfect. You never have all the pieces at the same time on your table. You never have them. You never have them in life. You never have them at work. You never have them at home. You never have them at school. They don't exist. So you always have to make shift, and it's most important that you learn to make the best of what you have. You're right that there's a shortage of infrastructure, charging infrastructure. More than that is the shortage of the skill set, because you're looking for that correct person to work with. You're looking for that correct perfect person on your team, which doesn't exist. You always have to make do with what you have. So even when it comes to not only the infrastructure, not only just for charging, but for the one who's going to be making that charging infrastructure, that skill set ready made does not exist. So when you're looking at a startup within the domain of electric mobility, you're looking for a startup within a startup industry itself, in the entire startup ecosystem of the globe, wherein there is no precedence, there is no preset data, and there is no roadmap of how to do it. You're working on it every day in, day out. You're doing that structure. It doesn't work, you make another one. It doesn't work, you make another one. You continue to make mistakes, but they are the fantastic way to tell you what is not to be done. And you're right on this.
Yeah.
We've also started working without an infrastructure, charging or no charging. But that's the way, that's the beauty of doing a startup, that you have a plain background. You can fill up with the colors of your choice and make your own structure, make your own art.
Great advice. And I think, of course, we never have perfect things to work with when you are in a startup, but also in the well-established ventures. That's a great advice. Prerna ji, we have got one more question from Shrishti. Shrishti, please go ahead with your question.
Am I audible?
Yes, Vita.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. First of all, it's such an honor to meet you. And my question was, what is the biggest factor that has helped you to be successful in your journey? And what are some of your habits that you follow daily? Like people say they make goals every morning. As you said earlier, you find out your core strengths and weaknesses. Do you do it every day?
Oh, you're asking for all my secrets. And I just don't want to ruin your impression. You know what? But, sweetheart, the fact remains is we all have our flaws. And let me admit, I don't write them every day. But my biggest strength is, and there's no fairy tale story on this, that I get up every day and start writing those 5 important words and tell anyone, no, I that's not just me. That's just not me. I will be so honest to you. But my biggest asset is that I've remained a student till now. I learn every day. I learn every day from everyone that I meet. Even if it is one small thing, I learn it. And the other asset is, I've learned to manage frustration and anger. It's the most difficult thing to learn in life, but this is one biggest thing I've learned, besides other things, and I'm continuing to learn. So someday I learn to assemble the battery pack. Someday I learn how the guard at the entrance of my office maintains his register. Someday I learn how does my pantry guy manage his tea, sugar, coffee, or how does he manage his dishwashing appliances, whatever. Someday I learn how my plant team manages their tools while they're working at the assembly line. Someday when I'm sitting with Masroor sir, I learn how to work on Excel sheets. Someday when I'm sitting with Shivesh sir, I learn what kind of shortcut keys he keeps on using, though, so that when it takes me 1 hour to finish the projections, he damn, I don't know how, finishes in 5 minutes. But yes, the,
Great. I think, I mentioned this.
And ma'am,
Yeah,
uh,
go ahead, Shrishti. Go ahead,
ma'am,
Shrishti.
I had one more question. Sorry. I had one more question. That what is the best piece of advice you can give to a seventh standard child? Like I'm in seventh standard. So what is the best piece of advice you can give me and then and other children?
two very important things I've learned, and I think that's the best thing we believed on. One, of course, like I said, never stop learning. No amount of learning is dispensable. Whether you're learning your academics or a subject, or whether at sports, or whether in a dance class or arts class, every day, every subject is full of learning. Learn, and learn to excel in whatever you do. It is important. Wherever you can be excellent, just try to be your best in that field, in that vertical, in that subject. Whatever you're doing, just try to be your excellent self. Nothing less than 99% of what you could have been. At your age, that's the most important thing to do. And that will teach you how to continue learning. It is easier said than done, but That is how the learning comes from continuing to learn. But try whatever you can excel in. Never leave it at 99%. Excel in it.
Great. Again, great piece of advice, Prerna ji. Thank you so much. I'm sure we would love to continue to talk to you, but unfortunately, we are at that moment where we have to close this discussion, but with a promise that we may want to have you again talking to our super kids here in future as well.
As always a pleasure to speak to you, sir, and to your fantastic budding team. My pleasure, sir.
Wow.
Anytime, every time.
Great. So thank you so much, Prerna ji. That was a very interesting story, friends, of being among the first women Air Force pilots in our country. That's a great honor. And then listening to Prerna ji about her entrepreneurship venture and the journey that she has had. Hope you all enjoyed this. We would like to thank Prerna ji once again, and we would love to invite her once again to meet our young kids. Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much.
much, sir, and all the best to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
All
Thank you
the
so much,
best.
ma'am. Thank you. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Bye.